Hello and welcome back to this damnful idealistic crusade. In this video, I want to go over the recently posted schedule for the 2025 BFI Film on Film Festival, which takes place in London and is just as, if not arguably even more impressive than some of their past festival lineups. Now, for those unaware, the BFI has started this festival that is entirely devoted to promoting film in exhibition. So every title that is in this festival, whether it's a feature film, a short film, large format, special screening, no matter what, all of them are going to be film screenings. And as with past festivals, the BFI is not content to simply screen 35mm prints. Over the course of this festival, if you were to go to everything, you would have the opportunity to see non-standard film gauges, 8mm, 16mm, 35mm, 70mm, IMAX in terms of full 15 perforation large format prints, and of course some nitrate print screenings. So this is just another treasure trove and film lovers' paradise in terms of an astonishing film lineup for a festival. It's really one of the best festival lineups I've ever seen. It's the kind of festival where you read the summaries and going over the whole schedule, and the attention to detail and the love and care for the film medium itself just jumps off of every page. So this is a festival where I would try to go to everything, even for films that I had never really heard of or hadn't come across my radar before, because the BFI does take the time to dig through their vast archives and holdings and come up with programs and titles and groups of titles. But they're not just focusing on British films and classic Hollywood cinema, but also a great deal of focus is given to world cinema, and then all kinds of experimental shorts and documentary programs and just all kinds of incredible sounding things from their archive holdings. So attending any of these screenings is also getting a sort of education in the world of film itself, the history of the medium, the development of film as an art form, and the presentation of film on film. There's also a large amount of fascinating panels and workshops all about the film medium and the exhibition of film, and also focusing in particular on some of the titles that have been selected, and also an entire panel on the BFI's project to create brand new film prints of classic titles to at least keep the experience of seeing a film on film alive. The festival is really the greatest realization of that, and it will have some of these newly made prints as part of this long-running process that are shown, just as they were at the last festival. So the BFI's initiative to make 100 plus new film prints of classic titles even gets its own entire panel devoted to that project. Now, this festival runs June 12th through the 15th of this year, 2025, at the BFI South Bank in London. All the information is available on their website, which I'll have linked in the description, but ultimately it is such a jam-packed festival that I can't possibly go over everything in terms of the schedule in one video. So as I've done in past videos, I just wanted to talk about some of the highlights and focus on some of the incredible, rare, one-of-a-kind treasures that you will have the opportunity to experience if you're in London in June, and if you manage to get tickets for some of the screenings that will be quite difficult to get into. The big one in particular is the premiere screening of the festival, which I'll get to later in the video. To start, I'd like to highlight some of the panels and workshops that are going to be in this year's festival. There's quite a number of them, all of them dealing with specific aspects of the film medium, film restoration, film handling, but all of them are truly important topics that all are things that need to be covered for someone to get an entire grounded history and understanding of the importance of film as a medium. So these include an entire presentation on the influence of Star Wars and how it changed and affected the industry in both production and technology. As I mentioned before, there's an entire panel on the BFI's initiative to create 100 brand new 35mm film film prints, and so this is going to go into details about the ups and downs of that whole process. There's an entire presentation about the non-standard film gauge of 28 millimeter, which is also going to feature some of these surviving prints projected on a hand-operated projector. There's a presentation on how film has helped in preserving television works. There's a presentation simply about an up-close look at 35 millimeter projection, which is crucial because projection is dying out, and current generations really don't have an opportunity to get their hands on, actual 35 millimeter projectors or seeing it in action outside of trying to find a projectionist to actually show you these things. So actually having a dedicated section of the festival about 35 millimeter projection and demonstrating it for people, especially so younger audience members can actually get that sort of hands-on experience, is really crucial. There's a whole panel on the development of the Film on Film Festival. There's a whole panel on the BFI National Archive. Then there's a panel simply on handling film itself and proper techniques. Again, these are crucial elements that will really go a long way into helping the current and younger generations be able to have a more tactile connection to the film medium. There's also going to be an entire panel on the digital cinema changeover and what that meant for film and how that changed the industry. There's programs that are specifically designed for younger audiences. There's going to be one for teenagers to actually make their own short films using Super 8 millimeter. Then there's another program expressly for 25 and under in terms of attendees who are under the age of 25. So it's something specifically designed in getting kids and young adults and the younger generations interested in film as an art form and a medium. And another that really jumped out to me is one entitled Making Film on Film Accessible, which is going to be entirely about making film screenings actually accessible to everyone. I think this is really important because it is something that doesn't really happen in 2025. And the key thing about the Film on Film Festival and why I think it's so special is that there is this feeling that they are trying to make film screenings accessible to everyone, because it's not like you have the opportunity to go see any film you want to on the actual medium it was designed and originally exhibited on. So getting these rare chances is something to really appreciate, but not everybody gets the access to that. So the fact that this festival has an entire panel workshop about how to make film screenings accessible to everyone, again, really furthers this theme they have of making film something for everyone, because it is for everyone. Next is an entire section for smaller gauge formats. So this is a collection of shorts and rare materials that are in Super 8 and 16 millimeter. There's an entire experimental program and a documentary program as well. Most of these films are 16 millimeter, some are 8 millimeter, and they run the gamut from a 16 millimeter screening of Don't Look Back, the classic film focusing on Bob Dylan, to various newsreels and films about social issues that are really important time capsules for when they were made, to even including an 8 millimeter screening of Uncian Andalou, which is, of course, a fantastic idea to be able to experience what it's like to see that classic work in 8 millimeter, but it's also a fascinating comparison to its big brother, essentially, that will be screened in another section of the festival I'll get to. There's a family section for all ages audiences. The film included is a 35 millimeter original release print of An American Tail, which is definitely a film that does not get screened on a print hardly ever. And then there's also a collection of children's 16 millimeter shorts and even a drop-in area so kids will actually have the opportunity to get their hands on film and actually get that tactile connection, which, again, I think is so important to give kids that opportunity to have at such a young age and then get them interested in film that much more quickly. The main section of prints is under the title of Discoveries and Rarities. These are all pulled from the BFI's vast archive, and all of these are films that you don't see screened hardly ever and are also exceptionally difficult to see a good print of. And what's also great and truly wonderful about their schedule is that they actually give the print information and include some form of print notes on every listing. So you can actually read about the print you're going to be watching, know what you're watching, and know what the condition is like, which for a film geek like myself is just heavenly to read, because typically film festivals and art house theaters or even museums don't do that. Typically they just say the format or say that it's film or digital, and that's all you get. So the fact that each and every one of these has a full note about the element being screened and the condition of the element is just astounding. Since there are a great number of these, I'm just going to highlight a few, but all of them sound incredible, and again, all have print element notes. And a really nice surprise, a film that does not often get screened from an original print, is the 1995 Get Shorty, which is one of my favorite 90s films to revisit, and a film that has a variety of not very great video masters. It's a film I've always wished I could see a print of, and this is listed as being a pristine original release print from 1995. Another print is the 1933 pre-code film Hard to Handle, a James Cagney vehicle directed by the great Mervyn LeRoy, which is listed as an ex-BBC transmission print in very good condition. And this being one of my favorite eras of classic Hollywood to really dig into, and being obsessed with all of the Cagney vehicles, this is one of the screenings I would love to get into. There's a number of really underrated films, or films that I've been wanting to revisit. One of them is The Outfit, the 1973 classic starring Robert Duvall, which is very well regarded in genre circles and is listed as being an original release print with a good deal of wear in the first reel, but then the rest of the film is in lovely condition. And again, I love that the element condition notes are extraordinarily detailed to even tell you, this has wear at reel changes, and the first reel has a good amount of wear, but the rest of the print is a beautiful screening experience. In terms of rare prints and just rare films to see in general, they have a print of the 1969 film Last Summer from Frank and Eleanor Perry, which is a very rare film to see, and their notes continue on to say that the film is unavailable on home video and for years was only accessible on a 16mm print held in Australia. This 35mm print from the BFI archive does show very considerable wear and has faded with a blue cast, but it offers a vanishingly rare opportunity to see one of the essential yet missing American films of its era. So this is one of those films that this is really your best and only major opportunity to see it in its best possible form with what survives, and what survives unfortunately has color fading, but this, for what we know, is the highest quality surviving projectable screening copy. So this is one of those screenings where they had to really focus on getting the best element they could, and another sign that the BFI is willing to dig deeply into their archives and try to highlight films that may not exist in the utmost quality in this day and age, but are incredibly rare and difficult to see otherwise. They've got a 90-minute program entitled Sing Along Silence. This is a collection of various short subjects and other films from the early days of the sound transition. So it's a mixture of different types of early sound and early partial sound. So these films are, of course, partial talking, but also will feature a pre-recorded accompaniment that's part of the original film, but then also some of them will have new live accompaniment in terms of music and other things. So this is a really nice idea to bring together a variety of different early sound films that show the different ways people took in trying to adapt to sound, and how it was a learning process most people really don't think about unless they're actually watching a lot of these films from the early sound transition era. So, it's a particular mindset you have to be in when you're watching a partial sound feature where there's only dialogue for certain scenes and then it reverts to being a silent film, or there's certain sound effects that are synchronized and then some films don't have synchronized sound. So it's it's a whole variety of different approaches. And so I think this is a fascinating way to get people more experienced with the early sound transitional era by grouping together and curating a variety of different films and types of early sound films, and then having a mixture of the original sound and then a new accompaniment as well. They have a print of the 1956 Slightly Scarlet, directed by Alan Dwan, shot by the legendary John Alton, and an adaptation of the great James M. Cain. This is a really vivid color noir from the 50s, shot by one of the most legendary noir cinematographers, getting to work in Superscope as well, but also being projected from an original Technicolor print, which should be absolutely stunning to see. They're also screening an original release print of the Prince film Under the Cherry Moon, which was shot by Michael Ballhaus after he shot Raging Bull, so it should be really incredible to see that film with its photography in lovely black and white on an original print. They have a print of the 1941 Unfinished Business, a really interesting sort of screwball comedy film that's also tipping more into drama elements. It's a film that doesn't get discussed very often, and one I've never seen have a screening listed at a theater. This one is listed as being screened from a very good condition 1970s reprint. The classic Westward the Women, directed by the great William Wellman, is screening from what is listed as a pristine 35mm print. This should be really fantastic, as I think black and white westerns of the period of the early 1950s are really underrated for how striking they are visually and using the landscape in particular. They really do open up when seen in a theater on a print in ways that aren't exactly reflected at home, even when they have beautiful restorations, which this film did recently have a Blu-ray from a new scan from the Warner Archive. But I would really love to be able to see a print of this on the big screen, as it is one of the classic westerns and one of the great William Wellman films. Now moving into other categories of the more special film formats. The first is the Nitrate film section. So these are all original vintage Nitrate prints that can only be projected in the handful of theaters in the world that are certified and set up for projecting Nitrate, including the fireproof booths. So getting to see Nitrate prints is incredibly difficult, a rare opportunity, and seeing a film exhibited on Nitrate is really getting the proper experience of what it was like to see that film originally in terms of the silver content and the black levels and the grayscale in a black and white image. Of course, modern restorations can work wonders, but there's nothing that can 100% replicate seeing a vintage classic work projected on an original Nitrate print. There's nothing else in the world quite like it, and it's an incredibly difficult and fragile and dangerous thing to have to work with. So getting any Nitrate screening is something to really treasure and appreciate. But this has some truly unmissable treasures, I think. First is something that I didn't even know if this was in existence to be screened, and that is an original Nitrate print of Uncian Andalou. This is what I referred to before. So you'll be able to see two different versions of one of the most famous art films and one of the most famous short films that has such an incredible impact to this very day. But this is an original release print. This is what you would have seen if you were around in 1929 to be able to witness this indescribably magical and whimsical work from Buñuel and Dali. This is getting to step back in time and see, again, one of the most famous art films ever as it was originally shown. The BFI also says that this is the oldest print ever projected to a modern UK audience. This is something that they seem to try and advance every festival, because they've screened incredibly old release prints before, but the thought of being able to see this Uncian Andalou in an original 1929 Nitrate print is just amazing. Since it is a short film, they have paired it with another film that I didn't know existed in an original print of this type. And that's the Jean Renoir film, Partie de Campagne, which is a 35mm Nitrate print with English subtitles. and this is credited as being a weathered but beautiful looking original UK release print. So right there you have two incredible classic works basically bundled together, and being able to see both of them at once in original Nitrate release prints, that right there in and of itself is amazing. Next is a Nitrate print of the 1947 Blanched Fury, which is credited as being an original 1947 Nitrate UK release print and was donated to the BFI by Rank Laboratories in 1980. This should be really stunning to see, as it was photographed by Guy Green, who I think is one of the great cinematographers who doesn't often get the credit he deserves. Another is the film Dancing with Crime, which is credited as being an original 1940s Nitrate print that was donated to the BFI by Rank Laboratories in the mid-70s. And then the notes include, at nearly 80 years old, there's occasional scratching and repair work, but the print has plenty of life to it. And if that were not enough, the last of the Nitrate listings is an original 1934 Nitrate release print of Hitchcock's masterpiece, The Man Who Knew Too Much. For a screenable Nitrate copy of one of the British Hitchcock classics and one of the most important ones to survive and actually be projectable is one thing, but for it to be a pristine vault copy that is being shown at the festival, that's astounding. This, I think, is one of the most mind-blowing listings for this year's festival. It's one of the things I just absolutely wish I could be there for, to see what is really the breakthrough sort of Hitchcock moment of the first of his absolutely recognizable spy thrillers, with all of the classic Hitchcockian elements on full display, and the success of this film cementing his name in the British film industry forever and leading directly into the masterpiece, The 39 Steps. All of the British Hitchcock films are truly important. There are so many masterpieces among them, but there are certain ones that are touchstone moments in Hitchcock's career. And after Blackmail being the first sound film that he made, it's really The Man Who Knew Too Much in 1934 that's the real watershed moment in terms of firmly establishing what is a Hitchcock film for the rest of time. And again, the success of this film is really what starts the unbreakable run of the classic, well-known British sound Hitchcock films. So the fact that there is an original Nitrate copy that is in perfect shape, that's able to be screened and is being screened at this year's festival, makes it really one of the greatest treasures to experience here, and something that every Hitchcock fan should try and get to. There's an entire section for Cinemascope films in black and white, which is a really unique experience when you stop and think about vintage Cinemascope films being in black and white. It was a particular style that didn't last very long, as very quickly color supplanted black and white, and the idea of having a big scope film be in black and white wasn't something that studios were really going to go for. So for this, they have three films. One is the classic Advise and Consent, directed by Otto Preminger, and of course is a 1962 original release print, which would be really wonderful to see. Next is the classic HUD, which has gorgeous widescreen black and white photography courtesy of the great James Wong Howe, a film that's always been renowned for its visuals and one that should look absolutely stunning on the big screen, from a print which is credited as a 1992 print. So obviously it's a print struck later, but presumably one done for vault purposes. The third is the Hungarian film The Roundup from 1966, which is a 35mm print with English subtitles, but is very important due to it being a big restoration effort. It's a new 2023 print that was made from the 2020 digital restoration at the Hungarian Film Archive Laboratory. So this is a print that I don't think is going to be screened very often. It should be another rare film to see on a print on the big screen. The one IMAX print being screened is of 2001: A Space Odyssey, as part of the run of unrestored prints overseen by Christopher Nolan a number of years ago. The listing has it as a full 15 perf IMAX print, so you're seeing the IMAX system at its fullest potential, showing one of the most iconic and most important of all large format films, 2001: A Space Odyssey. For 70mm, there are two vintage 1980s original release prints being shown, both of them being blowups with 6-track magnetic stereo. The first is the classic Amadeus being screened, and of course, this being an original release print. It is of the theatrical version, which was long supplanted by the extended director's cut on home video. But this is seeing a blowup from 35mm with the benefit of 6-track magnetic sound. Now, seeing 70mm in terms of vintage original prints and blowups with 6-track mag sound is a very, very rare opportunity in 2025, as most theaters don't have the capability of playing back magnetic stereo, and magnetic audio has to be preserved in terms of prints, so it's very often something that can get easily damaged or degrade over time. So this is a really fantastic opportunity, and it says this print was donated by the original production company in 2006, so it should be in really excellent condition. The other is one of Spielberg's most underrated films, Empire of the Sun from 1987. This is, of course, another 70mm blowup from 35mm, but the film was extraordinarily well photographed and should look beautiful in 70mm. And of course, this has a superior 6-track magnetic stereo track as opposed to the general release 35mm prints having only Dolby Stereo. This should be a really fantastic experience and obviously the best presentation of the film you can possibly get, as it's an original print that is a 70mm blow-up with 6-track mag stereo. Then in the section of new 35mm prints made by the BFI, they have 4 from their film initiative. The first is one of the greatest films ever made, the second in the Val Lewton horror cycle at RKO in the 1940s, the masterpiece I Walked with a Zombie, directed by Jacques Tourneur. I have always dreamed of being able to see all 9 of the Lewton horror films on the big screen on original release prints, but that of course is a pipe dream. But being able to see one of the most visually stunning of the 9 in a brand new print made by the BFI should be really sensational. The next is the Rossellini film Journey to Italy, which is credited as being contract printed from the original negatives, so this print should be absolutely stunning to see, as it's a new print being made with the original negatives. Next is a new print of the 1983 classic Local Hero starring Burt Lancaster, and that's a film that I think would be incredible to see on the big screen. The last new print is of the 1962 British B film Strong Room, which has a fantastic reputation for being a really gripping B crime thriller that exemplifies everything a British B film could be. This is another brand new print that was made, and this is actually its premiere screening at the festival this year. And now to close out with the special presentations. So these are the big sort of event screenings of the festival. The first is the Ernst Lubitsch directed The Student Prince in Old Heidelberg, the 1927 film in its restoration by Photoplay Productions. But what's really important about this, in addition to being a must for all Lubitsch fanatics, is that this is a tribute to the late Carl Davis, the legendary silent film composer, as they will be synchronizing his score for the film for this presentation. So it's a wonderful thing to see a tribute for one of the big, great names in silent film music being done as part of this festival and being given its own special presentation slot. Next is a presentation of a 35mm print of the Twin Peaks pilot episode, and Kyle MacLachlan will actually be there for a Q&A as well. This is a nice way of having something unique that also is a nice tribute to David Lynch as well, because you'll be able to see the pilot for the iconic television series, but on the big screen in its fullest possible form, essentially, because they're screening the very same print that was used for the initial BBC broadcast. So this is basically getting to see exactly what people saw that first initial screening on British television, but getting to see the full film element and getting to experience the full quality of that. So there's an interesting sort of time capsule element there. The next screening is something that I think would make every film geek in the world's mind boggle, and that is the fact that they have not 1 but 2 prints from Stanley Kubrick's own personal archive of his own films. So they're screening a print of The Killing and the classic initial short Day of the Fight. Both are copies that were from Kubrick's own personal archive collection. So they are the copies he had of his own films to have for reference, and due to his nature, I'm sure they are made as well as humanly possible, right down to each and every frame. So the opportunity to see Kubrick films on original prints theatrically is itself a rare treasure and something everybody should try and do. But to be able to see not one, but two of Stanley Kubrick's works at the BFI from the actual prints that Kubrick had in his own archive, that's just something I didn't think that would ever happen anywhere. It didn't even occur to me that that might be a possibility somewhere down the road. So this is just absolutely stunning to think of, and something that is going to be very difficult to get tickets to, I think, as everybody's going to be clamoring to be able to get into that screening. But if you thought that was the headliner of the festival, they managed to do one even bigger, and this is the one that's generated some news stories, but I'm not sure if people are truly aware of just how important this particular print and particular element is going to be in terms of making this screening not only the big headliner of the festival and what's opening the festival and it's going to be the most difficult thing to get tickets to and get into, but also what makes it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that is the fact that the BFI is screening twice, only twice, their archive copy of an original 1977 British IB dye transfer Technicolor print of Star Wars. These prints that were made were also the last British prints to be made in dye transfer Technicolor. It is a real milestone achievement in terms of film printing and producing some of the most beautiful film images that were ever made, as dye transfer Technicolor prints do not fade when stored properly and can be just absolutely incredible decades after the fact. But also being able to see the best possible 1977 original release print of Star Wars, the best possible color out of all of them, including the 70mm blow-up versions. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because of the various changes that have been made to Star Wars across the 4 special editions and the withdrawing of the unaltered versions of the original trilogy from all circulation for decades now. It is said that George Lucas himself has his own personal dye transfer Technicolor print copy of Star Wars, which would have to be one of these British prints, because by this point in 1977, no American dye transfer Technicolor prints had been made since 1974, which is when the process stopped in the US with The Godfather Part 2. That's usually the film that is labeled as being the last dye transfer film in the US. Also, the British Technicolor labs had a reputation for having more refined and richer color presentations in areas than the more bold color you find in American dye transfer Technicolor prints. So the printing of Technicolor dye transfer was an art in and of itself. No two prints are exactly alike, and everything had to be done just right to produce a beautiful element. And when they were made properly and stored properly, they are still used to this day as references in terms of film restoration work. So this is listed as a extraordinarily good condition copy with just general wear, and this makes it just like the BFI's IB Tech print of Jaws that they've shown before a few times, an incredible opportunity to see the best possible original 35mm print from the original release of one of the most iconic films of not just the 70s, but all time, but compounded with the fact that it's Star Wars and you don't have an opportunity to see an original print or the original version anywhere. Just compare it with the TCM Classic Film Festival, which just this April opened with George Lucas attending a screening of The Empire Strikes Back, which was a DCP of the 4th special edition. So even the TCM Film Festival couldn't get away with running an original print of a Star Wars film, especially with Lucas there. I'm sure that would never happen, as Lucasfilm was known throughout the years for stopping screenings of original trilogy prints or even seizing original trilogy prints, and famously had the holdings updated in the Library of Congress to be special edition prints mixed in with various original prints, as they were trying to supplant the original versions even in the Library of Congress. So the BFI being able to pull a vault copy of one of the handful of British IB Technicolor prints from 1977 and doing not one but 2 screenings of the best print that was ever made of Star Wars in 1977. And again, this includes the 70mm blowups, which while they had increased visual fidelity in certain areas, there was also some cropping involved, and it was a blowup from 35mm, which did obviously cause some quality difference. And even 70mm prints did not have the same rich, lush, larger-than-life color and visual splendor of a dye transfer Technicolor print. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is the best version of Star Wars that was ever struck in terms of film prints, and it's an opportunity to see the original version in its best possible quality on an original 1977 print that obviously has no fading or deterioration in terms of the color, as it's one of the handful of extraordinarily rare British dye transfer prints. It's also a print that needs to be seen and enjoyed and appreciated by everyone, not just because it's the original version of Star Wars, but because it's the last of the dye transfer Technicolor films in terms of the original lineage. Because after the process was stopped in the US in 1974, you just had a couple more years of dye transfer being done in England, with Star Wars being the last. So this is really the last of the classic dye transfer process that really defined what the term Technicolor meant to audiences and resulted in what are film prints that, when properly made and stored, remain to this very day works of just complete art in and of themselves. So this is the headliner of the festival. This is what has made news stories for good reason. And if you're able to get into this screening, it is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as it is the best original print of Star Wars that was ever struck. So that's just a basic run through of some of the highlights of the festival. There are so many films and short subjects, documentaries and experimental shorts, and wonderful panels and programs, all designed to form an incredible festival lineup that also is completely inclusive of everyone. These are all screenings that people can buy tickets to. There's not an exorbitant fee to get in with having to buy laminate passes or anything like that. And every single screening is designed, I think, to educate audiences, interest audiences, and convey the importance of film exhibition and why it's so important to celebrate film as a medium and to keep the film traditions alive for future generations. So I think the BFI Film on Film Festival is really a film lover's paradise in more ways than one, because it's a celebration of the film medium itself and a celebration of film exhibition, and trying to provide that experience to everyone today who doesn't really get that opportunity to see an actual film print being projected, and then be given the feeling that you're included in the process because you get to learn more about it and actually get to experience the medium in all its forms, in both the presentation of classic works and interesting offbeat works, and the actual day-to-day operations of how all of that is put together, and learning about film restoration and film handling, and having this incredible opportunity to get actual experience with the medium itself in that particular way. It's the kind of festival, I think, that most of us film geeks have always dreamed about. I think it's unmatched in terms of celebrating film as a medium and an experience, and trying to engage with people by keeping all of this accessible and open, and with screenings that people can buy affordable tickets for, and not making it some exclusive sort of a festival with a high ticket entry fee. And on top of that, all the screenings are film screenings. So that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of manpower. It takes a lot of planning, and a lot of care has gone into this festival. And it just shows reading on the website. Every listing is written out with full descriptions of the print element and the element condition, and the programs are well put together, and the panels look fantastic. There's not one aspect of this festival that doesn't have 100% of love and care put into it. And that really comes across when you read through the whole schedule on the website. So I completely envy anyone who is able to go to this. It is really, I think, just about the greatest film festival I've ever seen in terms of the whole curated series of programs and the desire to keep film as an important art form that is accessible to everyone, and actually keeping the traditions alive of being able to see a motion picture of any type on a film print the way it was originally shot and exhibited. It's just a magical festival, really, in a lot of ways. Even though I can't go, I'm so thankful that the BFI does this. It's an incredible thing to look at and just study the incredible schedule they've put together. It's an incredible thing just to read about, let alone imagine being able to go. I do hope I'm able to go one of these years. So if you're in the UK and you're able to go to any of the screenings or workshops, please do so. Again, the dates are June 12th through the 15th of this year, 2025, and it's just going to be an incredible experience for all of the presentations that they're doing. This is just an incredible lineup and shows an incredible amount of love for the medium. So those are my thoughts on the 2025 BFI Film on Film Festival. Once again, I think the BFI has outdone themselves and made one of the greatest film festival lineups that has ever been, and it seems like an absolute paradise for all film lovers everywhere. So if you have the opportunity, definitely try to make it to some of the screenings in June, as you'll be able to see some incredible treasures no matter what you go to. So as always, I hope my babblings about classic films and film festivals and the love of the medium has been at least somewhat fun and informative. The BFI really does an incredible job at not only preserving and promoting film as an art form, but really engaging with audiences of all ages in ways that I think are so incredibly admirable, and something that I wish we had more of here in the US, which is apparently changing now that the BFI has announced a new American division. So it's possible we might see some form of the Film on Film Festival here in the US, which would be really fantastic. They did partner with the TCM Festival this year and showed a number of their rare archive treasures. So hopefully we'll see more of that from their new American division. But I do think the BFI Film on Film Festival is the greatest repertory film festival in the world, and the kind of festival myself and all film geeks have always dreamed about. So my hat is off to them once again for just an incredible effort. That is really the best example we have of an organization promoting the love we all have for the cinematic medium. So please support the BFI by visiting the Film on Film Festival this year and support incredible efforts to promote the medium itself. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.